They called it national security. They claimed it was about protecting America from enemies. But in the shadows of the 1950s, another hunt began, quieter, colder, and far more personal. It targeted not spies, not traitors, but American citizens whose only crime was who they loved. Historians estimate that between 1950 and 1990, more than 10,000 federal workers were fired or forced to resign under policies rooted in one fear-driven belief. Homosexuals were security risks. The government didn't just persecute them, it erased them deliberately, systematically, relentlessly. This was the Lavender Scare. Imagine working in Washington, D.C. in 1953. The Capitol dome glows like a beacon. Government buildings hum through the night, and everywhere, the promise of American opportunity hangs in the air. But if you were gay, every footstep behind you could be in the end of your career. Every knock on your door could signal interrogation. Every whispered rumor could cost you your life's work. For many, it did. It began with the same paranoia fueling the Red Scare. Senator Joseph McCarthy had already inflamed the nation with claims of communist infiltration. But another man, Senator Kenneth Wary, took the fear further. You can hardly separate homosexuals from subversives, he warned. And wheat, that the government's attention shifted. In 1953, President Eisenhower signed Executive Order 10,450, officially declaring gay men and women security risks. It gave federal investigators the power to dig into private lives, to follow, question, intimidate, and expose. Interrogation rooms became chambers of shame. Agents asked about romantic partners, past encounters, even the way a person dressed or spoke. They followed people home, questioned neighbors, and scrutinized friendships for signs of moral weakness. A simple accusation could trigger an investigation. A suspected relationship could lead to immediate dismissal. Evidence didn't matter. Denial didn't matter. Survival became a matter of silence. For many victims, terror wasn't only losing a job. It was being outed in a world where being gay was criminalized. People lost careers, reputations, friends, families, and futures. Some, fearing exposure or humiliation, took their own lives. The government claimed it was protecting the nation. In reality, it was destroying its own people. Behind closed blinds and locked doors, small pockets of resistance formed. In the early 1950s, a young astronomer named Frank Kameny joined the U.S. Army Map Service. Brilliant, disciplined, and deeply patriotic, he dedicated himself to federal service. Then in 1957, investigators discovered he was gay. He was fired within weeks. His appeals were denied, but instead of disappearing like so many others, Kameny fought back. He became the first person to petition the Supreme Court for LGBTQ+ rights. His firing letter became a symbol, a reminder of how far the government was willing to go to erase people like him. Though the court rejected his case, he ignited a movement. Others weren't so fortunate. Thousands lived double lives, hiding partners, avoiding friendships, burning letters, speaking in coded language, locking their authentic selves in invisible cages. The fear carved itself into their daily routines. If they shared an apartment with someone of the same sex, they pretended to be cousins. If they had a partner, they walked on opposite sides of the street. If they went to bars at night, they memorized escape routes. The Lavender Scare didn't just fire people. It reshaped how an entire generation lived and loved. Federal agencies became battlegrounds of suspicion. The State Department alone fired over 1,000 employees during these years. The Civil Service Commission claimed homosexuals were unsuitable, a vague, elastic word that let them purge at will. Even after McCarthy fell, even after the Red Scare faded, the Lavender Scare continued year after year, decade after decade. Some agencies carried out investigations into the early 1990s. Meanwhile, the people targeted built quiet communities of strength. Secret support groups formed in basements and living rooms. Anonymous networks helped people find new jobs or new cities where their past might be hidden. Early rights organizations emerged. The Matakeen Society, the Daughters of Bilitis, built by men and women who had once feared being seen. At night, behind heavy curtains, they planned marshes, wrote pamphlets, and strategized legal challenges. What the government intended to break became something more powerful. A movement. Slowly, the country began to change. In 1975, the Civil Service Commission finally announced it would no longer bar gay people from federal employment. By then, the damage had already been done. Tens of thousands of careers were lost. Countless families fractured. Many victims never returned to government work, or never told anyone what happened to them. They carried their silence to the grave. But some lived long enough to see the truth recognized. In 2017, the State Department issued an official apology. It acknowledged the suffering, the wrongful firings, the shattered lives. The apology arrived too late for many, but for those still alive, it was a recognition that the government had waged a war not against enemies, but against its own citizens, loyal Americans, whose only crime was loving differently. The Lavender Scare remains one of the longest-lasting witch hunts in American history, stretching nearly 4 decades. It is a reminder of how fear can turn into policy, how prejudice can shape law, and how silence can become a weapon. But it is also a story of extraordinary resilience, ordinary people who endured extraordinary persecution and still found a way to survive. Some survived in shadows. Some fought publicly. Some never lived to see justice. But all of them left a mark. Their courage, silent or loud, helped lay the foundation for the rights that millions rely on today, and their story demands to be remembered.